Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this Candidates Forum, which is an established tradition of over 15 years standing. This session is sponsored by the Edmonds Chamber of Commerce, assisted by its Economic Development Committee. Our purpose is to benefit chamber members and residents of Edmonds as well. My name is David Cornell, and I'll serve as your moderator. We're meeting in the Edmonds City Council chambers, part of the Public Safety Complex. Our proceedings are being broadcast live on local channels 21 and 39. As a courtesy to all, please silence your cell phones so they are not broadcast. We're happy to have present with us the candidates for mayor and all 8 city candidates for the candidate for mayor and all 8 candidates for city council in Edmonds. Also in attendance we have 5 candidates for Edmonds School District office and both candidates for the Port of Edmonds. With so many candidates present, we limit the time available to each. They understand that their statements and answers to questions will be timed carefully, and I'll feel free to interrupt in case anyone runs overtime. This forum divides into 2 groups of candidates. I'll introduce the candidates in each group as they take their seats. Once the forum begins, each will have 2 minutes to make an opening statement. In cases where there are 2 candidates running in opposition, they will have 1 minute each to answer questions placed by the moderator. Questions have not been shared with the candidates in advance. Opposing candidates will answer the same question in the spirit of debate, with the order controlled by the moderator. Following the question and answer session, each candidate will have 1 minute for a closing statement. Candidates have been instructed to keep watch for signs from our timer, Jan Kavadis. In addition, they must end comment when requested by the moderator. The first group of candidates will be those running for school district and Edmonds Port positions. The mayor and city council candidates will come in the second group. To repeat, each group has candidates running without opposition and some with competition for seats, so all candidates have been invited to make a statement. However, only candidates with competition will be asked to answer questions by the moderator. First, we'll hear from unopposed candidates for school board and Edmonds Port positions. After they have made their statements, candidates for school board with opposition will come forward. We're about ready to begin. The following candidates will now please rise and take their seats in front. 2 Port of Edmonds candidates, Commissioner Position 2, David Preston, and Commissioner at Large, Position 4, James Orvis, and 3 Edmonds School Director candidates, District 3, Gary Noble, District 4, Susan Phillips, and District 5, Diana White. Check to see that you're sitting near the nameplate that bears your name. The camera will focus on you. Thank you very much. Mr. Preston, are you ready?
As I ever will be.
Okay. You have 2 minutes for a statement.
My name is David Preston. I'm Port Commissioner of the Port of Edmonds, one of 5 commissioners. And if this gets a little boring a little bit later on at 7:30, we start our meeting tonight. So if you'd like to come down to the Port of Edmonds, feel free to do that. And so I wanted to start off by saying the Port of Edmonds is the only governing body in the city of Edmonds that's actually commissioned by the Washington State Legislature to do economic development and tourism. So just I want to let people know that that's what we do. So we focus on that. And a lot of times people wonder what we do down at the port. That's our focus. And we've got one of the things I want to do in my next term would be to restore the port to the Economic Development Commission in Edmonds, where we were once at the table. We need to be back at that table because we do excuse me, economic development and tourism. So we need a seat at that table again, which we don't have right now. So I'm going to work to restore that. As most of you know, we have a great marina down there. We have the best marina on Puget Sound, and we want to keep it that way, and with good access. We have first-class access to the waterfront. We want to keep it that way, real nice and enjoyable, not only for the citizens of Edmonds and Woodway, but communities around this area. People always enjoy coming down there and walking along the boardwalk and into the all the way down towards the dog park. A couple of things we worked on that I was instrumental in this last year, no pun intended, but with Sea Jazz, bringing Sea Jazz to the Port of Edmonds, and then Artists in Action. That's a couple of things that we've gotten a lot of good feedback on, and we want to keep growing those type of things down there. Other new things we want to continue to do things like this. Jacobson Marine down there has brought a lot of activity to the waterfront, as well as, excuse me, the whale watching tours. If you have not done a whale watching tour, that's a must do. It is phenomenal, and you're guaranteed to see one. So I would get out there and do it. It's a great boat and a great business we've got, and we brought down there. We brought a lot of tourists into town. Busloads of tourists come in to go on this whale watching tour. A couple other things that are happening right now. We're going to be putting new bathrooms in down there. Doesn't sound real exciting, but it is down there when you're walking around and everything. I'm done.
Thank you very much, Mr. Preston. And now, Mr. Orvis, if you're ready, your statement, please.
Thank you. It's an honor to serve the citizens of Edmonds and Woodway as a Port Commissioner. And it's a special privilege to serve with a commission of talented citizens who are committed to providing public facilities that give excellent economic value and superb recreational opportunities in an environmentally sound manner. Your 900-boat marina, with its beauty, superb staff, and well-maintained facilities, is recognized as one of the premier marinas in the Salish Sea Basin. The port is also a leader in developing environmentally sensitive procedures in the marina and boatyard, and many of these have been adopted by other facilities around the Sound. The waterfront property is attractive, it's productive, it brings tens of thousands of visitors annually to the restaurants and businesses located not only on the waterfront but in downtown Edmonds. The boardwalk is enjoyed by citizens and visitors year-round. During the summer, live performances by local musicians and displays and artists enhance the waterfront experience, and new businesses such as Jacobson's Boat Sales and Service Facility and the Puget Sound Express high-speed excursion contribute to the city's revenue stream. Upland Harbor Square is in the latter stages of restoration. It's attracting new businesses, including restaurants and 2 breweries down there now, and we intend to continue our efforts to ensure that Harbor Square remains attractive to businesses and that it will remain profitable. Financially, the port generates sufficient income to retire all marina bonds by 2017 and pay the note on Harbor Square by 2021, and we have large reserves which we are laying aside to assure the port remains financially sound in the future. And I am done. Thank you. I love this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Orvis. And now we have 3 candidates for Edmonds School Director. So we're shifting our focus somewhat. First candidate is Gary Noble, District 3. Go ahead, Mr. Noble.
Oh, thank you. My name is Gary Noble, and I've been on the school board for 11 years. I'm opposed, but my opponent chose not to participate tonight. I'm proud of the accomplishments we've had, particularly in the last 4 years. Our test scores and graduation rates have greatly improved, and recent SAT and ACT results show that our scores are higher than state averages and higher than national averages. We are right now building state-of-the-art replacements for Alderwood Middle School and Lyndale Elementary, and soon after that we will be rebuilding Linwood Elementary, Madrona, and doing major upgrades to Spruce Elementary. Thank you so much for the bond that has allowed us to do this. Costco is now open, so we are getting revenue from the old Linwood High site, which will help supplement the need for future bonds for capital projects. And probably most important, we've maintained financial integrity. Throughout the recession, we had to cut nearly $40 million, but we maintained an excellent educational program during that time and always had a balanced budget. My priorities in the future are full-day kindergarten and reduced class sizes. The state is providing the full-day kindergarten and reducing class sizes up to grade 3. But we've dedicated considerable money from our budget to reduce class sizes in grades 4 through 12. My other priority is to hire and retain the best quality teachers and staff possible and to provide the professional development needed to train them to educate our children in the changing educational situation we have today. And of course, continued financial integrity is very important. So I thank you for the opportunity to be here, and I ask for your support in the upcoming election. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Noble. And now we're moving along to School Director District 4, Susan Phillips. Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for organizing the Candidates Forum and for including me. I appreciate that. My name is Susan Phillips, and I recently served on the Edmonds School Board for 7 years. I was reelected in 2013, so I thank you for your support. In early last year, 2014, I resigned from the school board due to a family medical emergency. So it's an honor to be back up here and to be being considered to be back on the school board. It was a difficult decision for me to resign because serving on the school board is a responsibility that I take seriously and have a passion for. As a school board director, I will continue to work to improve our school system, support teachers and staff, and strengthen relationships between school, community, and home. I will work collaboratively with fellow board members to improve learning for all students and provide teachers the support needed to maximize their students' success. My family has lived in Edmonds for 20 years, and I have been involved with Edmonds School District and community advocacy for over 17 years. My volunteer work and involvement with school-based community groups enables me to wisely make decisions in the interest of students. As a school board member, I will continue to work diligently as a voice for all students. I believe that the education of our children is our community's greatest responsibility. And I look forward to representing you on the board to set district policy, engage our community, and most importantly, help shape the leaders of tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we have the candidate for School District 5, Diana White.
Hi. I would also like to thank the host for providing this opportunity for all of us to meet the candidates. My name is Diana White, and I'm running unopposed for re-election for Director District Number 5, which is the Northwest Quadrant, serving Meadowdale High School. I was elected for my first term in 2011, and I've been serving as board president for the past 2 years. I'm honored to serve you as president and the students in this role. And as a parent in the district, I see the impact of our decisions that we make as a board. I find this work extremely challenging at times as we work in the ever-changing world of K-12 education in Washington State. In fact, it seems like it changes daily sometimes. My husband and I have 3 graduates of Edmonds Public Schools and a son at Meadowdale Middle School. My kids started at Edmonds Elementary, where I was active in PTA and auctions and other events. The work I'm most proud of, besides my children, is leading the fundraising and construction efforts to build a new playground and walking track at Edmonds Elementary, and this was over a $200,000 project. I'm very proud of that work. On the school board, I've been serving on the Health and Wellness Committee, and I've been instrumental in helping the Nick of Time and the Truex family bring more AEDs to our schools and increase awareness about sudden cardiac arrest. And as a Hazel Miller Foundation board member, I've collaborated to bring some really unique funding opportunities to the district, like some after-school study programs and teacher reimbursement programs. I'm very proud of the education that my kids have received in the Edmond Public School District. They've gone on to universities and gotten college credit, and they've done very well. But unfortunately, this is not the case with all kids in our district, and that's where the hard work lies. That's why I've committed to serve on the Equity of Opportunity Committee, where all of our Edmonds students, including our struggling learners, our English language learners, our low-income and special needs kids, and especially our students of color, deserve the very best educational experience we can provide. So I look forward to this challenge and many others that lie ahead of us as a school board director. And I thank you and appreciate your vote.
Thank you to all of these candidates, and now we invite them to relieve the seats. And while they are departing the front, we're going to call the two candidates for the contested position of Edmonds School Director District 1. Would candidates Bill Wilcock and Karen Chase please take their seats at the front? Greg has kindly put your name plates in front there. These two are going to make their opening statements for 2 minutes, as did the others. And then following that, there will be questions to which they are given 1 minute each, and they'll have a 1 minute closing statement opportunity. I'll alternate the order of their responding to the questions so that we have a sense of debate that way. So, candidate Chase, if you're ready.
Just a moment.
That's yourself. Yes. Lubricate your whistle, and we'll be ready to roll.
All right. Thank you very much. And thank you for the opportunity presented by the Edmonds Chamber to talk to the community. My name is Karen Chase, and I'm running for the open position on the Edmonds School Board District 2. I'm a Puget Sound native. I've got a biology degree from the University of Washington, and I'm currently at the Evans Public School Public Policy and Governance graduate program. My son is a sophomore at the Montlake Terrace STEM program. I'm a PTA member, a school volunteer, and I'm recently joined the Edmonds School District Strategic Directions Working Group. I ran a general contracting company for 20 years, and I'm also the founder of the Washington State Women's Council. And my candidacy was recently endorsed by the Edmonds Education Association. I'm very passionate about public education. When challenges are identified, I step up to the plate. When we were looking for school funding for our playgrounds, we were able to secure grants from a community public-private partnership and fund our, in the shoreline school districts, the playgrounds that we desperately needed. I like to participate one-on-one with the kids and have worked with the Elementary Civil Rights Club. When these kids saw the Birmingham March in their civil rights class, they decided they wanted to do something. And so I helped them decide what they wanted to do, which was take to the state legislature the knowledge that they had gained and share with the entire state the importance of civil rights education. So they crafted a bill, introduced it, testified, and they were actually able to have this bill signed into law. And it was one of the crowning moments, me personally, of some of the school children I've worked with to see how proud they were and the lifelong change in their demeanor and strength that they felt by being able to do something that was meaningful on a statewide level. I've also worked with students on solar installations projects in the Shoreline School District, of course with the Madrone Children's Theater for years. I work as a substitute paraeducator along in the classroom. I testify and lobby for funding basic education in Olympia. I'm a lifelong advocate of levies, and I also host monthly discussions in the community with the topics of education, policy, and practice. For me, public education is a very high priority. When we consider policy decisions, children come first. Oh my gosh, I went off script. I'm so sorry. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Chase. And now we will move on to Mr. Wilcock for the same position and the same opportunity.
Thank you, David. And thank you to the Chamber for inviting me here this evening, as well as the other candidates. It's a great forum to be at and participate in. My name is Bill Wilcock. My wife Kathy and I have lived in Edmonds 24 out of our 27 married years. Our 3 children are graduates of the Edmonds public school system, and most recently our daughter graduated last June from Edmonds Woodway High School, making me an empty nester. So part of my drive for seeking this position is driven by not only just having the extra time at home, of course, but my passion for education and the needs of our kids. I've participated in our kids' education actively over several years in the Edmonds School District, not just at the Edmonds Woodway High School. I've been active for over 8 years. That experience includes participating in the Citizens Planning Committee, which developed then into the Strategic Direction Initiative, which I'm an active participant in this year as well. In parallel with the district, I'm also active with the Citizens Planning Committee, which works on promoting bonds and levies necessary to support the schools here in the district. All of this volunteerism, which also included community volunteerism as a board member of the Pacific Little League, it's helped me develop my priorities as I look forward to this position. First and foremost, it's about focusing attention on our students' achievement in a safe and healthy environment. It's also focused on fiscal responsibility. I have 30 years of professional experience in high tech in both an operational and financial capacity, and look to bring those qualifications to help complement the rest of the board. And of course, the other priorities, and I think this should not go neglected tonight, is we've got over 400 homeless kids in our school district, and we've really got to focus our attention on achievement for all students at all levels. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we move into that part of the discussion where both candidates have the opportunity to respond to questions from the moderator. So I'm going to ask both the candidates to consider this question from the committee. What level of funding do you believe the state constitution requires to support basic education? And I'll ask you both to consider it. I'm going to ask Mr. Wilcock if he would answer that first, please. Would you like to have the question repeated?
No, it's fine. So first, as most of the audience should be aware, right, in terms of activity at the state level, in terms of budgets, a lot is being driven and a lot of notoriety is built in and around the McCleary decision. I guess as board member, there are over 196 school boards in the state, all of which have access to liaisons to in and out of the legislative arena to help gauge best decisions in terms of spending. What I would put forward tonight is, although I can't tell you where the next nickel should be spent within the district, I will bring a close watch on the actual budgeting process. And further, I've already established relations with principals of each of the buildings within the district in the footprint that we will represent to understand their needs from a classroom environment basis.
Thank you. Karen, do you need the question repeated, or are you ready to go?
Oh, I'm ready to go.
Okay, thank you. Please go ahead.
Well, it is the paramount duty of the legislature to fully fund education. So that's the first part of the question. As we know, they're in contempt right now, and isn't it $100,000 a day fine being levied on the legislature for their lack of due diligence in this? That pretty much answers your question.
Due diligence, yes.
Yeah.
Are you done?
I can continue if you'd like.
Sure, you have time.
Oh, I have time. I do. Thank you. As far as, we've seen the struggles in the school district right now on, attempting to shore up the lack of funding. And that is, of course, the sound fiscal management of the budget that the board has oversight over. And so I really actually look forward to taking a really hard look at what we can do with the money that we do have. School districts across the state are struggling. And I better start looking this way.
All right, thank you. On to the next question, and this question will be placed to Ms. Chase first, please. That is, How would you balance input on decision-making to the school board from professionals and citizens?
What the school board directors are the liaison between the community and the board, and all deliberations and sound policy making means that you go seek out input from the community because we need to reflect their values. So the balance of input is you get and you gather as much input as available with what community forum, so it represents the values. The community also contains professionals who have professional opinions on many issues that school board will grapple with. So I think that we can take a broad-ranged approach on and consider very vast levels of knowledge from the community and staff when we make deliberations. Am I okay? Oh, I got
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we're ready then for your answer, please. Mr. Wilcock, how would you balance inputs from professionals and the citizenry?
It's a great question. I think at the onset, in terms of the citizenry, I think that the Edmonds School District has done an admirable job from the standpoint of creating forums through which the public can actively participate. The Strategic Direction Initiative has 5 working groups in it. We have over 100 and some odd participants from around the community that include staff members, teachers, and folks from all walks of life who are actively engaged in any of the 5 topics that the initiatives group manages. And that feedback is channeled directly into the school board and weighed carefully upon key decision making. I do think there's opportunity in the Edmonds School District to increase the amount of inputs from the commercial environment and professional environments of businesses, and see if we don't have an opportunity to tighten up collaboration between local businesses and the district's endeavors.
Thank you. Now we shift to another question, and this one we'll direct to Mr. Wilcock first, please. This question is, what would you do to change educational programs in the Edmonds School District?
Well, the role of a school board member is to represent the community at large and the needs, but not only that, but to also bring focus to student achievement. There are existing means through which curriculum can be assessed and driven towards change. It's based on, again, a lot of it comes from the inputs through the Strategic Initiative Directive. There's a work group there that's focused on effective learning for all students. So I would look to harness the existing channels that are in place through the district, but also the inputs through the Strategic Direction Initiative channel to affect change that the community would like to see.
Thank you. And Ms. Chase, how about your response to that question? What would you do to change programs in the Edmonds School District?
That's actually, thank you for the question, and Bill's got some really good points, because there are, the role of the school board is to take community input and input from professionals to see if changes need to be made, and if so, gather input from stakeholders, such as if it's the teachers, the community, parents. It's one of those things where, yes, the strategic directives and the work groups are valuable resources and a great conduit, but not quite enough. So you're asking, how do you go about change? You get attention, you get the stakeholders, find out what the stakeholder is within the framework of the authority. Authority does not sit with an individual board member. The authority to act resides with the entire board. So it's a collaborative process where you bring information to the board and discuss it with all the stakeholders. So that is my approach to any kind of change whether it's on a program level with its district, facilities. It would be that type of approach.
Right, thank you very much. And we move on to another question. There's been quite a bit of discussion about the nature of testing in our schools. I'd like to direct this one first to Ms. Chase, if I may. What is your view about the level or the quantity or the nature of testing in our schools?
I was just at this great program at the U, and every single day the professor said, use your imagination. Every single day, multiple times, use your imagination. And one thing that I worry about in the amount of time that's being spent worrying about testing, classroom preparation, that we're pushing out those things that do foster imagination and creativity. So I think that there's been too much high-stakes testing going on right now. I think that the goals and the need for standards and assessment is there, but I think that there's been an over-reliance on the ability of a high-stakes test to measure that without giving also what's good for kids, which is feedback. A lot of these tests you don't get feedback on. I'm concerned that classroom time, thank you very much. You keep going.
Very good.
Yes.
Thank you. The level of testing in your view, Mr. Wilcock.
Well, testing can take many forms. I think often we hear that question and we go right to standardized testing as the controversial issue. There are many scholarly papers out there debating the pros and cons of standardized tests. Within the school district, I think you have to keep in mind the context that because there are billions of dollars at stake in the state level for funding, that the politicians and decision makers, legislators need data. So standardized tests have turned out to be a means to gather data. But, and Karen and I have participated in forums elsewhere where we shared similar feedback. The real danger in standardized tests is an over-reliance in them as a sole measure of success. In the district, I'd fight hard for a more comprehensive view of students' achievement at the classroom level, taking in more inputs than just a standardized exam. And further, it's not a decent measure for teachers' efficacy as well. Their teachers should not be graded based on standardized tests. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm going to take the liberty and add another question in here, since we have the luxury of two spokespeople and just two people speaking about the school issues. So let me ask this question and direct it first, please, to Mr. Wilcock. There is a concern about safety in our schools today. What should the school resource officer, a police officer, program be restored? And if so, how would you develop funds for it?
Kid safety is tantamount in the school buildings within the district, so we should not lose sight of that. My own kids' experience at the Edmonds Woodway High School was during a time when they did have a police officer in the school. I can speak from that firsthand experience that, and I also had a child who attended without a policeman in the school building. From the kids' point of view, there was no noticeable difference. So I think we'd have to weigh very carefully the need based on current practices that are within the district's policies from the standpoint of what safety measures are already in place, that the school administrations have been trained with and can administer on their own. And then, of course, look towards if there is a need, we can balance that through inputs like the Strategic Direction Initiative for guidance in terms of how the school board should best implement a policy.
Thank you. Ms. Chase, what about safety and the police officer in the school?
Thank you. That's a really interesting question. As a parent of a high school student, I mean, you can imagine the concern you feel given the climate, and we know what's going on with the gun violence in the high schools. I would be cautious to think. I have not had the experience of interacting with the community police officers, so I would really like to be cautious when we consider implementing this on what is the most effective tool that we have for creating a safe environment in the schools, and thinking that there's one magic bullet. And that would be my concern. Perhaps the community officer is a piece of the strategic plan to have safety in the schools, but that's something I'd want to really take a look at. I think that there are many pathways that we can use and many strategies to make safe schools, and that would be one that we would take a look at. I'm not sure. I'm not
right.
sure at this time. So.
And now is your opportunity for the silver bullet, and that is your closing statement. So we'll go first to Ms. Chase, please, for your closing statement.
Okay. Well,
1 minute.
thank you very much, and thank you again for this opportunity. You know, I'm very passionate about public education. That and equity is and multiple pathways, assuring that all students are able to achieve success in whatever way that may be. The school board their paramount duty is to make sure that there's equitable access for all students, and I passionately want to be working on that with the rest of the board, and I would appreciate your support and your vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And a closing statement from Mr. Wilcock.
Thank you. And thanks for listening to us this evening. It's a little rough with not knowing the questions ahead of time, but congratulations, Karen. Thanks,
Yeah,
thanks,
good job,
David,
Bill.
for getting us through this. My reason for seeking office is driven also by passion for education. And it's also, again, it's all about the kids. I've had the opportunity to sit next and tutor kids from all different walks of life. And through my 8 years of experience working with the district and the high school, I would point to watching the eyes light up in a kid who gets a math concept all at once. I can connect the dots between that child's experience, them relating the story of going home and bragging to their parents about how they've achieved something they hadn't done before, bring it back and share it with us and the teachers in the school environment, and connect that bridge next to understand how that can make a school a more vibrant environment. And I think you've heard it here this evening as well. If our kids are doing well, our schools are vibrant, our community will succeed at large. And I think as a candidate with your vote, I'll work to ensure that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and join me in thanking these candidates for their remarks.
One of these things, you know the questions ahead of time, right?
Now we're going to move to our second group, candidates for the city positions. Now first, we're going to hear from those appearing without opposition this evening. This includes our mayor, David Erling, and two candidates for city council positions. So, in addition to David Erling, mayor, candidate council position 4, Diane Bucksness, and position 6, Tom Massaros.
Oh, let's see, where's Tom?
As before, each of these will make a statement for 2 minutes. And when you're ready, Mr. Erling, please proceed.
I'm not ready.
Have a drink.
Well, good evening, and thank you, as others have said, thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. When I was sworn into office 4 years ago, I spoke of only two things. The first was my serious concern about the financial stability of the city. We spent a considerable amount of time, if you recall, we reduced our budget, my first budget year, by over $1 million, $1.5 million. We had to reduce our overhead so that we could be more successful financially. That was a hard decision, but one that we had to make. It involved cutting staff, involved cutting straight across the board on funding. But I think it brought good results, because and tomorrow night, if you'd like to hear the budget message, you're perfectly willing to come back here. We'll find out that we're in a very healthy economy. We've made great progress financially, and I point to that as a real success. The other thing that I was concerned about, my opening comments when I was sworn in, is that if you remember back at that time, there was not a good feeling about the community from the citizens, having to do with some staff members leaving, some staff members being dismissed, that sort of thing. So one of the focuses I've had is to try and find consistent ways that we can communicate with the citizenry, and that includes the columns that we put in publication every 2 weeks. That includes now being involved in some social media. That includes making sure that we record the State of the City speech and have it played over and over as people choose to listen to it. We've really tried to reach out to the community so that they begin to understand and feel like they are a part of the community. It looks like I'm out of time, and I want to thank you. Jan Kavadas, by the way, used to be involved in children's swim meets, and Jan runs a tight ship, and she's doing that again tonight. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you, David, and thank you, Jan. And now a statement from Council Position 4 candidate, Diane Bukshness.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the Chamber for having this forum and allowing us to provide our input. Of course, I'm running unopposed, which I thank the citizens of Edmonds for no one running against me. But it has been an honor representing the citizens of Edmonds for the past 6 years and working with Mayor Erling and his staff for the past 4 years. I have worked diligently to preserve our historical charm, our glorious views, our wonderful parks, safe streets, and a responsive government to which I remain dedicated. My record reflects your interest in financial accountability and transparency, community services and the arts, environmental and economic sustainability, and neighborhood livability. I was instrumental in improving financial policies, reporting, and oversight. I advocated for and am committed to the new Edmonds Senior Center rebuild and moving it into a community and senior facility. I've worked tirelessly to protect our environmentally sensitive areas and support the restoration of our Edmonds Marsh. I continue to encourage forward-thinking and pragmatic steps towards addressing transportation and safety issues, as well as enhancing our economic viability. Most importantly, I strive to keep Edmonds' traditional values and characters, because that's what we love about Edmonds, and that is why we live here. I'm humbled by my diverse endorsements: the Washington Conservation Voters, National Political Women's Caucus, Sierra Club, Cascade Bicycle Club, legislators Senator Marilyn Chase and Senator Mark Elias, Representatives Strom Peterson and Cindy Ryu, former council members Dave Orvis and Jack Bevan, and community advocates such as Rose Cantwell, Barbara Tipton, Dave Page, Dr. Rich Senderoff, and many more. With your vote, I will continue to work for the entire community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we'll have a statement from Position 6, Tom Massaros.
Thank you. And again, thank you to the Chamber for being the sponsor of this event, and for all of you for coming out, and for those that are watching at home, thank you for your interest in our city. And like Councilmember Bukshness, I feel fortunate to be running unopposed. I was recently, 18 months ago, appointed to the council to fill an unexpired seat that was there due to the former council member Yamamoto. I was going to say that wrong, but now I got it right. Yamamoto, who had to step down for health reasons, and just feel fortunate to have been selected from a group of 14 candidates that had presented themselves at that time. It's been a little bit of a learning experience to be involved in city government and all the nuances of that, and to really be responsive to the citizens. Because though this may seem interesting to all of you, you don't always agree about how we should run the city. And so, as you listen to citizen groups and you listen to people and you try to get that input and you try to be responsive, it's an important thing to do. I've been talking about three things as I've been running my candidacy, and those three things are leadership, and I think leadership is an important aspect of that. You see what has to be done and you work to do it. The second thing I've been working on is collaboration, and that's working with my fellow council members to come up with the best solution. And so if you're a good leader, you do take input from others, and you try to take that input and really mold that to what a future might look like for our city. And then the third thing I've really tried to work on is stewardship. Government always seems to want more money, and I've learned being on the council that there is never enough money. I think the administration has done a good job of being stewards of that, but it's important that the council also be a steward of that, and that we provide that second look at the opportunities to better serve our city with the resources that we do have. So I'm going to continue to focus on those three things, on leadership, collaboration, and stewardship, and I look forward to your vote on Election Day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now let's thank these three candidates and allow them to retire. And let's not forget to express appreciation for our CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, who's setting up those fine signs for us, Mr. Greg Urban. Thank you, Greg. And now we will have individuals who are running for city council positions with opposition present. Just a moment, I will get my information out here. Yes. We have two candidates for District 2, Mike Nelson and Al Rutledge. For District 5, David Teitzel and Alicia Crank. And for District 7, Neil Tibbet and Laura Petzo. And please assure that you're sitting beside your signpost, please. Thank you, Neil. Okay, council candidates, are you ready for making your individual statements?
Ready.
All right, one at a time, please. 2 minutes. We'll call first upon Mr. Mike Nelson for his opening statement.
Hi, I'm Mike Nelson. It's been an honor serving you as your council member. When I talk to residents, they tell me three things. They love it here, they've lived here most of their life, and they like things the way it is. I do believe Edmonds is a special place, and I want to keep it that way. That's why my priorities are threefold: a strong economy, a safe community, and a healthy environment. Our economy is bouncing back. We are seeing significant increase in our revenue from more people dining out, shopping, and buying homes. To help keep our city's economic drive on track, I strongly support revitalizing our Highway 99 corridor, promoting our city as a tourism destination, and ensuring long-term financial sustainability. Second, I want to ensure that we have a safe community with the best police and fire services available. We have very few violent crimes in our city, thanks to the police department, who does an outstanding job of apprehending them. However, over the last 5 years, we've seen more of our homes being broken into, more of our cars being stolen, and more of our personal belongings being taken. By hiring more officers and renewing neighborhood engagement, we can send a clear message to those who prey upon our city: we will find you and we will catch you. Third, a healthy environment. 90% of all of our cities will be impacted by climate change, including ours. We've been advised that the sea level of our own coastline will rise 2 feet. This is not just an environmental or economic imperative, but a moral imperative. As Pope Francis recently visited our country and said, climate change is a problem that we can no longer be left to a future generation. As a member of our city's Climate Protection Committee, I'm working with our city staff and residents to develop a citywide plan to reduce the amount of waste we produce and increase recycling. This is one of the fastest, cheapest, and most effective strategies we can have a positive impact on our climate. I look forward to talking to you about these issues and many other challenges and opportunities facing our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. And now, opening statement from Mr. Al Rutledge.
Alvin Rutledge, position number 2 for Edmonds City Council. I've been a resident since 1986. I have not ever been employed by the city of Edmonds. I have volunteered for many organizations in this city, and I will talk about the issues during my questions and answering period.
All right, thank you very much. So we're going to move along to position 5 candidate, Mr. Dave Teisel, please.
Thank you very much, and thank you, citizens, for coming to the forum tonight and listening to the candidates, and we really appreciate your time. First, let me say that I'm a true Puget Sound native. I was born in Tacoma. I grew up in the Puyallup Valley and went to Washington State University. I'm sorry the Huskies and Ducks may not like that we're here tonight, but I'm proud of that. I got married in 1975. Been married for 40 years now, this last August, to a beautiful woman named Kathy, my best friend. We have 2 beautiful daughters. They're now 21 and 26. Our kids both went to Madrona School up the road here. They're both Yost Penguins at our local swimming pool. And they both were Snow King athletes, so we fully enjoyed the Snow King experiences here. And I've got a strong business background. I worked for Quest Communications, retired there several years ago, worked there for 35 years. The last 10 years of that experience, I served as public policy director at a 14-state territory through which I advocated for the company. I testified in nearly 100 regulatory proceedings, and as you might imagine, that experience taught me to be honest, ethical, truthful, and logical. I think those characteristics all translate well to a council role. Why I'm running, I care deeply about Edmonds. I moved here in 1987. I was attracted by the charm of Edmonds, the beautiful downtown, the views, the great light we have. I want to make sure that we protect those things, and I will plan to work to do that for you. We also need to manage growth. You may be aware that we grew by 500 residents last year. It doesn't sound like much, but on a base of 40,000, that's a fairly healthy percentage. That means over the next 10 years, you might expect to see 5,000 people here. We need to make sure we know where we're going to put those people, make sure we provide a wide range of housing for all of them. My campaign theme is be included. You may have seen that in my signs around town. To me, that means we need to do a better job of demographically including people in Edmonds. We have a substantial Latino. Okay. 2 minutes went fast.
Thank you. And now, Ms. Crank, please, your opening statement.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Alicia Crank, and I'm running to bring a positive and fresh vision to Edmonds. What I really want to be able to do is to be able to add to what's already working, but also figure out what's not working and how we can fix it. I have 4 priorities as far as my goals for running for office. This includes open government and transparency, and part of that means also being able to create more opportunities for residents to be able to connect with the city and the council and vice versa. Housing affordability. I moved here from a similar community that went through a major growth spurt because of tech, and I know what it means to see a small city grow and what it means for residents who have been renters or want to own homes but can't because of the increase in rental amounts and also in purchasing housing prices. So I really think that housing affordability, both rental and ownership, are really important to focus on. Also, smart growth and development. Included in that really does involve creating some walkable neighborhoods, kind of some urban centers, if you will. Areas like 5 Corners, where you can build that area up to where you can shop and live and not have to always get into a car and go to Highway 99 to be able to do your shopping. And also really making Edmonds a destination. We already have the traffic coming here downtown to get on the ferry, but as part of economic development, we should find a way to be able to have those people get out of their cars and spend money here before they go over to the other side of the water and spend it there. I really want to put my community and career experience to work. Prior to moving to Edmonds, I worked for 6 years at a Chamber of Commerce in Silicon Valley. So I do understand the importance of fostering and maintaining partnerships within the corporate, nonprofit, civic, and residential communities. My decade of experience in investment banking and wealth management have also taught me to appreciate the value of a dollar, how to invest it wisely, and knowing that every mistake costs money, and we don't want to lose money on making mistakes. And finally, through my past service on human relations commissions, on boards of safety net services and other local nonprofits, I do have a deep appreciation for listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we will hear from candidate Neil Tibbet. Please go ahead.
My name is Neil Tibbett, running for position 7 on the Edmonds City Council. Thank you for coming this evening. It's really great to see an audience this evening to hear the candidates. I look forward to learning from the candidates as well as many of you. I do want to say that if you have questions afterwards, I'd be very open to connecting with you personally and by email and so on. To begin with, I'm married. My wife, Margaret, and myself, we've raised 4 kids here in Edmonds. 2 are in college, and 2 are still in high school at Meadowdale High School. We enjoy living in Edmonds. Our kids have benefited greatly from the education they've received here, and they've also enjoyed the sports and recreation programs we have here. So those are some of the things that we enjoy about living in Edmonds. Currently, I serve as the chairman of the planning board. I've been there on the board for 4 years, and before that, I worked on transportation issues in the city. I'd like to bring that experience and expertise to the city council and to help plan well for our future as a city. I want to make sure that we preserve our unique qualities that we all enjoy as residents while we plan for the future. In terms of my work experience, I'd like to emphasize that I've worked with a training organization for over the last 15 years, and during that time we focused on strategic planning and implementation of those plans. Over the years, I've developed and taught presentations on conflict management and group facilitation, and I have a special interest in community development. And as a result of my interest in community development, that's how I got involved with neighborhood activities, and that's how I eventually ended up serving in the city of Edmonds. Those experiences, that expertise, that training are some of the things that have served me well on the planning board and I expect would serve me well on the city council. I look forward to involving citizens in the decisions that we make as a city, collaborating with our colleagues on the city council for developing positive solutions, and I want to establish in the city a place where businesses and organizations can all flourish together. Thank you.
Thank you. And now our concluding opening statement by position 7 candidate Laura Petzo.
Thank you. It's been an honor to serve as a council member now for 9 years. With 9 years of service, I am presently the senior member of the Edmonds City Council. I have served on a number of committees, maybe most of our committees, and I've served in both council leadership positions with 2 years as council president pro tem and a year as council president in 2013. I am an economics major, graduate from Whitman College, and I also have a law degree from the University of Washington School of Law. I am a longtime resident of Edmonds. We raised our 3 kids here, put them all through various schools in the school district. Usually the progression was Sherwood to College Place to Edmonds Woodway High School. And my husband and I have run a business here in Edmonds for the past 25 years. We also volunteer. Our primary volunteer activity is as chess coaches at Sherwood Elementary School, and we are starting our 25th year. We have just started our 25th year of coaching elementary school chess, and it's just a blast every time we do it. I am eager to serve, and again, and still, and proud of our service. I've consistently supported our building height limits. I have advocated for the bond refinancing that has saved the city millions of dollars. And I was a key player in the development of various and acquisition of various parks. I voted to acquire Marina Beach Park. I assisted with the development of the Hazel Miller Plaza. And I worked with the citizens to establish Hickman Park. It's, as I said, an honor to serve, and I thank you all for coming out tonight. This should be an interesting evening.
Thank you very much. And now we'll begin with the questions and answers. We'll like to ask the same question of all the candidates for starters. The question we'll start off with is this question, and I will pose it first for candidate Al Rutledge. This is the question. What is your assessment of economic vitality in Edmonds today? Mr. Rutledge.
the city of Edmonds, in the past few years, has done very well here. If you're looking about the development in the city, so forth, it's been moving forward very well. I believe you had $18,000 over budget after the second quarter. You're looking at the future here, down the road in the next few years. We have the Edmonds Crossing project. We have other projects coming in, and also they're expecting a decrease in revenue. But although the city is doing very well all along here on bringing in funding to cover the offset of a decrease. And so and also you're looking at new buildings, new apartments being built in this town. This will bring in more development, more funding. And so you're looking at 217 to 219 in here. It's going to be all right, I believe, if we keep on going the way we're going.
All right. And Mr. Nelson, please, your assessment of the economic vitality of Edmonds.
I think right now our city's economic status is strong. As I mentioned, it's on the rebound and the up and up. Our revenues from real estate excise tax is up. Home sales are up. Sales taxes revenue is up. We're looking good. I think there's a tendency, of course, when things are really great, and especially since we've had a long phase where things were not. There's a tendency to want to start spending that money, and I think we just have to be very smart about it. And so that's why, while I advocate bringing back some more police officers that we lost back in 2008, at the same time we have to keep an eye towards our long-term financial sustainability. So I've met with our city's finance director and looking forward to more meetings with him about how we can keep things in perspective.
Thank you. And now may we hear from Ms. Crank, the same question. What's your assessment of the economic vitality of Edmonds?
I think it's in a very great position. I was really impressed when I first moved to Edmonds to see how the downtown was, the foot traffic and the car traffic that you had here, mainly because of the ferry system. And one of the things I really saw about that is no one's getting out of their cars once they're here other than to get on the ferry. And you have these great businesses and restaurants. How do you get people to get out of their cars temporarily to utilize those businesses and then keep going? Economic development isn't just about building buildings. I think it's really about building up the actual businesses that are here. So finding ways to to build up the businesses here, whether it's partnering as a downtown association, how do you get people to come in, how do you get them to stay here, and then also really just being able to say, despite any kind of economic downturn that will come in the future, because it just will, but how do you make sure that the businesses that are here downtown or otherwise continue to flourish even through that time? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Teitzel, are you ready to address this question about economic vitality?
I am, thank you. As you heard earlier, the city is doing very well this year. We've got great things happening here. You've seen all the restaurants opening, all the vitality downtown. I've heard that in the real estate market that our real estate excise taxes, the city realizes, are up 40% this year over last. That's an amazing increase in that market. I've also heard that in the rental market, our vacancy rate's only 3%. That means all the rental units are essentially full. So we are doing very well from that standpoint. I am concerned as I look at the budget over the next 5 years that our expenses are growing faster than revenue. As Mr. Nelson mentioned, we can't be complacent. We need to keep a close eye on expenses and find ways to generate new revenue for the city so we can continue to provide services you all demand.
All right. Thank you. Continuing along, we're ready for Ms. Petzo's statement, please. Response to the question.
Thank you. I would say assessing the economic vitality of downtown, Salish Crossing, and the port, I think we can all look at each of those areas and point to a tangible item that has improved over the last few years. You can pick out specific new businesses, areas of progress, and you can say, yes, this is improving. Westgate remains vibrant. It's a very interesting area that can support 2 full-size grocery stores and also 2 full-size drugstores. A variety of restaurants a number of banks and even such diverse services as getting some mending done or buying gas and having your car washed. So that also, I think, is quite a vibrant area. The smaller districts seem to be doing well to hold their own, which leaves us with, I think, Highway 99 as the obvious target area to work on. Thank you.
And Mr. Tibbet, will you give us your thought, please, about the vitality of Edmonds today?
Mm-hmm. Certainly. Of course, two of the major contributors to our local economy are the auto industry located along Highway 99 and the hospitality and service industries that are scattered throughout the city. One of the dramatic opportunities that we see in our city that not only brings in tourists but many, many people from around our neighborhoods is the kind of businesses that are started here. They're unique, they're one of a kind, they're not franchised, and they're the kind of thing that people enjoy coming to over and over again and inviting out-of-town guests to come and experience. One of the opportunities that we have coming toward our city because of regional growth is the opportunity for residential development. We, as has already been stated, we have had a growth in real estate excise tax, but we also could look forward to additional revenues from residential development through annual property taxes. So I think we're looking at continuing streams of unique and special one-of-a-kind businesses as well as residential development in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're ready for another question, and we're going to go back to Mr. Nelson, if we may, here, please, and look at a particular region of Edmonds. What development is appropriate for the Highway 99 region, in your opinion?
I'm glad you asked that. I think right now it's an area that is just screaming for revitalization. It's an area that we need to have, I believe, a mixture of housing and commercial space, or is commonly known as mixed use. It's a place that right now has 1,000 cars a day that are traveling through there, so it's also ripe for other modes of transportation, again, additional housing, and so I think that's an area that again, we have $10 million coming from the state, not immediately, but shortly. We have a program in place right now, starting actually this month, for $100,000 to bring on a consultant to start to look into the kind of community we want on Highway 99, not just on the highway itself, but the surrounding neighborhoods. And so I think it's a really exciting time for this development.
Thank you. Mr. Rutledge, what do you think about the value of development along Highway 99?
Highway 99, I believe they're trying to get back like it was years ago, back in 95 to 97. We had a lot of car dealers up there. It was a top more revenue up there, and it's been down here, but everything changed. Where we're at right now is to develop the area up there. We did have a meeting years ago of the housing. We do have apartments up there, mobile homes. And I don't have the ordinance in front of me here, but that was looking about to replace the mobile homes up there on Highway 99. So I'm looking at a point where you got Winkle's moving up there. About a half a mile from there, you got another car dealer coming in. And so this is a great opportunity for the city of Edmonds to work with those areas up there to compete for business. That's a hot area right now, and that's where the revenue is right now.
Thank you. Mr. Teitzel, please, will you share with us what your view is about development of another area? Would you help us think about what's appropriate for the Edmonds Bowl?
The Edmonds Bowl is a place we need to protect. Again, as I mentioned earlier, as we moved here in 1987, we moved here because of the character of downtown. We love the views, we love the quaintness of Edmonds, and I want to make sure we protect that. That includes keeping our building heights low so we can protect light, protect the friendliness of Edmonds that you all enjoy as we do. So I certainly don't want to see tall buildings, if you will, in Edmonds. What I would like to see is us focus on helping our current businesses there remain vital so we can keep all our storefronts full and also attract new types of businesses to downtown, high-tech type businesses that can have a low-carbon footprint, use our high-tech fiber network that the city owns, businesses that require a lot of bandwidth, like engineering firms, architecture firms, maybe travel agencies, businesses like that. Let's diversify our range of businesses in downtown that can fill up the space we have available currently. But I certainly don't want to see it get overdeveloped and lose the character that we all love here.
Thank you. Ms. Crank, will you please turn your thought to the question of development in the Edmonds Bowl, please?
Absolutely. I actually agree a lot with what my opponent said, but I will also stress that I am against any heights being created in the Edmonds Bowl, no matter whether it blocks views or not. I think downtown needs to be preserved as it is. Again, really focusing again on building up the current businesses. It's always great to bring in new business as well, but I think that we also have to be really careful to make sure that we're taking care of those who are already here and that they don't feel overshadowed by the romancing of new business coming in and being forgotten as a business that's been here for years or decades. And again, I'm really excited about the community building, that's the community center that's being proposed and being built along the waterfront. I think that's also something that's appropriate to, again, bringing people into the community and also keeping them here, being able to have their lunches and dinners along the waterfront, being able to have events, whether formal or informal, along the waterfront in a building such as that community center that we're looking to do. So those are my thoughts on that.
Okay, thank you. You've mentioned the waterfront, and we'd like to shift the view towards that neck of the woods. Across the tracks, there's another area that's sometimes thought of as the bowl, but it could be thought of more specifically. And Mr. Tibbetts, could you help us think about what you think development needs to be done in the waterfront area, please?
Well, I am very interested in what kind of business opportunities would exist along our waterfront. As most of those in the audience here would know, that there was an attempt to bring a master plan for Harbor Square to the city, and unfortunately our city council did not fully discuss the options that were brought before them, and I believe we lost an opportunity to bring new business, new opportunity to the harbor area. One of the things that I was looking forward to in particular for that area was more residential development along that area so that people could live there and also commute back and forth to Seattle or Everett on the rail system there. We need a connection between our downtown and our waterfront, and the Harbor Square area provided some of that kind of connection. And so whatever we do to develop down there would be an opportunity to build a connection between our downtown and the waterfront. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Ms. Petzo, please continue. What is your thought about development along the waterfront?
Thank you. One of the key elements of development of along the waterfront will be to respect the views, just as in the bowl and perhaps even more significantly in the bowl. If you have high-rise development along the waterfront, you are going to impact views. Another key to development along the waterfront, and something we've been contending with for quite some time, is the train noise. And we're taking steps now with the directional horns that are really going to reduce the train noise along the waterfront, which will be a great benefit for development of all kinds down along the waterfront. Finally, I think that the importance of a connection between our downtown and the waterfront is critical. Whether that takes the form of residential development, I don't know, because I'm not sure that provides a link, a reason to go from our downtown to our beaches, but maybe something more along the lines of a park or a plaza or a vibrant market area that would allow folks traveling down Dayton or down Main and back up a reason. When you consider why people might come to Edmonds and what makes Edmonds different, part of it is that our downtown and our waterfront are in close proximity. Thanks.
Thank you. And now we're going to move on to another question here, and we're going to phrase this question and place it to Mr. Rutledge, please. Thinking about priorities the strategic plan has been mentioned. What significance would you place on the Edmonds strategic plan as a guide for the City Council? Mr. Rutledge, please.
The City Council is the governing body of the government which has controlled the city of Edmonds here. And what you need to have is a better setup is how you operate your city council meetings. And what I'm trying to explain to you is that several times we have people come up that have problems at the city here. And so that should be changed, is how you handle the plans of the city compared to their citizens.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Nelson, what's your view about the relevance of the strategic plan towards making decisions on the City Council?
Well, I think it's very relevant. You know, there are 88 items on the strategic action plan, 84 of them that we are actually attempting to do. And of those 84, 70 of them are currently being started or underway. And I think something, 8 to 12 have actually been completed. And in my own actual priorities, fiscal responsibility, promoting tourism, Highway 99, recycling, those are all in the moderate to very high priorities within the strategic action plan. So it's something that I rely on and use. It's something that we got input from 2,500 individuals in the community. So I think it's a very helpful guide. I do think it is somewhat large. And so, if there's a way that we can bring it down a little bit more, and it's also sometimes of a challenge because the priorities are, sometimes we have high priorities, but because something's a low priority but easy to achieve, we do that first. And whereas some of these other things are high priorities, but they just take multiple years to accomplish. So I think it needs to, if we can bring it down a little bit narrow from 88 to something a little bit more manageable, I think we'll be able to achieve.
Okay, thank you, Mike. And now we have another question, which we'll deliver to Ms. Crank, please. That is, what are your expectations for the recently formed Mayor's Advisory Task Force on the at-grade crossing alternative analysis in Edmonds? You need to have that reread. Is that clear?
If you could repeat it again, that would be great.
Okay. What are your expectations for the recently formed Mayor's Advisory Task Force on the at-grade crossings alternatives analysis in Edmonds?
I would say, based on feedback that I've received from residents so far in the creation of this task force, I think the overall expectation would be that the results of that task force really make sure that they collaborate and really take in input from the citizens at large, and to not make any decisions that are just kind of high level across the board, if that makes any sense.
Okay, thank you. And Dave Teitzel, could you do a favor for us in the audience? We need to have you pull your microphone up closer if possible, or speak more closely to make you more audible.
If I pull it, I'm going to break it, so I don't want to.
Okay, just sit right up. Thank you. So the same question, please. This at-grades all crossings alternative analysis in Edmonds. What expectations do you have for this advisory task force?
Well, Mr. Nelson mentioned the strategic action plan, and one of the very highest priorities is to resolve that crossing issue so that we don't have the railroad be a barrier between our town and our waterfront. The number of trains are increasing dramatically. They will probably double in the next 10 years. That's going to be more and more blockage, so we need to get after that and get that resolved somehow fairly quickly. The task force now has been formed. It's a cross-discipline task force. It involves citizens. They're in the process now of selecting a consultant to examine the various options, whether it be a tunnel, a trench, an overpass, or whatever it might be. But I certainly advocate for moving ahead quickly with that, getting some kind of a solution done sooner rather than later, because we just can't afford to have that kind of blockage.
All right, thank you. Now we're going to move on to Ms. Petso, please. Another question. How would you propose to solve the problem of parking in downtown Edmonds?
That's tough.
You might think that was a difficult question, but actually, I have proposed a very similar solution to that for the past 15 years, which, when I first ran in 1999, I suggested that we look at satellite parking lots. In other words, if there's a particular building or business outside of the fountain area, but not too far outside, that the city would have an opportunity to acquire, we could consider acquiring that or rights to the parking lot there for a public parking area. And those areas would preserve our core, but stimulate the ability for other folks to get downtown. Another solution I proposed that has actually been implemented is those 15-minute parking spots, and those have been there now for over a decade. And I proposed that because, like many of folks who don't live in the downtown area, if you want to just run down to the Edmonds bookstore and pick up a book, it is so nice to be able to do that even if the downtown is busy and crowded. And so I hope that we continue to keep those 15-minute parking spots. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Tibbet, any thoughts with regard to the parking challenge in downtown Edmonds?
Yes. Interesting enough, as I've been out meeting people in the community, this is one of the topics that comes up quite often. People would like to have greater access to downtown. And one of the things that we're realizing is that we do have a number of people who are used to driving downtown, parking in front of their favorite store, and those opportunities haven't existed for quite some time. And so I believe one of the solutions for that is to look for parking opportunities outside of the area and promoting walking into downtown and encouraging people not only to walk several blocks to one store, but walk several blocks and visit 6 or 7 stores. One of the things that people enjoy downtown is the opportunity to meet friends along the way, and I believe that if we can get out of our cars, use different modes of transportation like biking, like walking, we have an opportunity to enjoy the downtown area as it can be. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to move into an area of questions that has more to do with the quality of life in Edmonds. Some of you have touched on this already. We're going to move to Mr. Nelson, please. City council meetings occasionally show a low level of civility. How would you work to restore an atmosphere of respect and cooperation on council?
Well, on council, I try to lead by example. I try to have a productive and positive relationship with all the council members. I don't bring things home with me, and I understand that I may not have their support on this particular vote, but I'm going to need their vote at the next time we vote or some other issue, because at the end of the day, we need to be doing the people's business, and we need to figure out a way to work together. So, yeah, I don't claim to be able to affect others and how they're going to act except by how I can act. So again, I try to lead by example, but that's why we have elections.
Thank you. And Mr. Rutledge, do you have any views on restoring or maintaining a high level of civility on council?
The problem you have, everybody's got to work together, and they're elected to office or appointed to office. And you're getting back to conflict of interest. And that's part of the problem is when you, with the city, if you have a 4-3 vote or 3-4 vote, if you're number 3 or either way, you're supposed to support projects. And they do not do that. And the reason they don't do that because the public doesn't understand who voted for what. The problem is when you're elected, you're supposed to represent the citizens and the people in this town. You got a mic over here to come up and speak during the audience sections. You're talking council members up here. How many times do they answer you? They don't. They don't have to. By law, they don't have to answer anybody here. But these are things that has to be changed, is to get an input of what the public wants to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move to another question and address it to Mr. Teitzel. Given that the railroad has already provided culverts for the outlet to Willow Creek, what do you think is the next step in daylighting the creek?
Well, there is a plan that's been advanced already to daylight the creek and also restore our marsh to help. So the plan has been presented. I think an option has been selected, which will daylight the creek so that salmon can return ultimately and rest and feed and then return to the salt water, which they cannot do today. So it will definitely be daylighted, opened. The channel is going to run somewhere between Marina Beach Park and the dog park down there now. I'm excited about that. I'm also here to tell you that we have Willow Creek Hatchery down SR 104. We do not release one salmon out of that hatchery into our own marsh today because they cannot escape to salt water. Once we daylight Willow Creek, that'll change. We can actually have salmon released there. It'll be an educational opportunity for our kids, and I think it's an exciting thing. So I fully support that effort. I think it's going to be a great thing for our city. It's going to attract tourists to town, generate additional tourist dollars, and we definitely need to get behind that project. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Crank, what are your views about daylighting the creek?
I think honestly when it comes down to it, the current plan that's in place, we just need to get it implemented and implement it now. I think one of the issues that has come across council, not on just this issue, but a few other things, is that we've been kind of we've been behind the 8 ball. The plan has been out there. It's just about getting things done, getting it started, and getting it implemented. So the plan is there. It's a good plan. I'm looking forward to being able to, see some more things happen down there to, as Mr. Teisel said, to really get tourism going in that area. It's time to get it done. Let's just figure out a way to just say, let's go.
Thank you. Mr. Tippett, we're going to shift the focus to a little bit broader view, but still having to do with the environmental quality. What are the most important elements needed to preserve the environment of Edmonds for the future benefit of its citizens and visitors?
Well, one of my concerns relative to our environment here in Edmonds in particular is the transportation of coal and oil and hazardous waste through our city along the rail lines. And whether it's any of those three or something else, we want to make sure that what's being transported is transported in a safe way according to the regulations. We stand as a city along with our regional partners to make sure that those regulations are followed. I would want to promote as much as possible the access, especially access to the waterfront for people who not only can enjoy it, but they also appreciate the waterfront. And when people appreciate what they see, what they experience along the waterfront, they're also more likely to be advocates for the environment that we experience here in Edmonds. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Petso, relating to the question of what do you think is the most important for preserving the environment in Edmonds?
Thank you. I'm going to cheat a little bit and actually give 2 items instead of just one. But the first one of major importance to me is stormwater regulations and how we handle our stormwater. We've had issues with simply too much water pounding through drainage channels. We've had issues with the water being too dirty, pounding through drainage channels. We've had issues with dumping high-speed water out onto the beaches, destroying tidelands. And so we need to work harder on our stormwater treatment. I know there was some rain garden activity last week, and I hope you all noticed it and can take note of that, because that's something we need to do more of. The other item that I'm looking to see more from the city in the future is open space acquisition. We've had some items come before us where maybe development was a little awkward, and sometimes either the city or even a private party would step up and acquire that environmentally sensitive property so that it's not developed at all and it remains and stands as an open space for our city. And that's a good result as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, we are making good use of our time. I want to thank the candidates for being so careful to observe the time limits. So I'm going to insert one more question in here and deliver this question to Mr. Rutledge first, please. That is, what do you think inhibits or prohibits expansion of business in Edmonds today?
Prohibits expansion of business in Edmonds. It's a very simple question. Highway 99, we have adult entertainment. You people know that you're talking about development, Highway 99, but that is where the adult entertainment is. That was passed by the city council quite a few years ago because they had no other place to put it. And we had good council members in there that looked at this very closely. You're talking about developing that area. This is a serious matter. Every 6 months, this comes back up to the city, and they pass it on for another 6 months. So this is something that prohibits expansion. That would be the area where you got to look at where to move that to, if there's an area to move it to.
Thank you. Mr. Nelson, do you have a view on what might be inhibiting business expansion in Edmonds?
Well, it's a tough question, but I'll try to attempt to answer that. We have, of course, our neighboring Linwood, so that takes a lot of our retail shopping. I know that the studies that we have done looking at where folks are doing their business, it's Edmonds residents are spending, a very not as much percentage shopping here, and part of that I think is because 80% of our workforce commutes; they're not physically here. 50% of that actually leave the county. So I think if we can actually bring some jobs that are high-paying jobs that we have a very educated and talented workforce. And if we can find ways to keep folks here, they will do the shopping and the eating. But I can tell you is that I'm doing my part. I get my hair cut, my teeth cleaned, my grocery shopping as much as I can. So, yeah.
All right. Are we ready for the next question? I'd like to direct this one, please, to Ms. Crank. We all know and appreciate the lovely view on the west side, or from the west side of Sunset Avenue. There's been some discussion about how to make that a permanent arrangement. What do you think should be the permanent solution for public access to the west side of Sunset Avenue?
That's a little bit of a tough question because you want to bring more people there, but that usually means that they're going to be in some type of vehicle. They're not always going to be walking down or bicycling down, which is what you would want to do. I think you just have to figure out the best way to accommodate making that happen. One of the things that I really thought about is, how do you make sure that you can, invite people to come without making them feel like they're going to be a nuisance to those that live in that area. I mean, we've already talked about the current parking issue in Sunset Avenue, about the diagonal parking and what's going on with that. So I think really just trying to be able to find a way to fix that problem first in order to be able to build upon what that idea should be.
All right, thank you. Mr. Teitzel?
Thank
Sunset
you.
Avenue?
Pardon me?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Well, I'm a frequent user of Sunset. I've got 2 dogs, and I walk my dogs down there, and I've enjoyed it before the changes took place with the trial reconfiguration, and I've enjoyed it after, actually. I enjoyed walking my dogs on the paved area. It keeps their feet cleaner when it's wet, so that's a good thing. However, I think there are some concerns. Citizens have expressed concerns about the new parking configuration. I personally have experienced the angle parking. A couple weeks ago, I bought a sandwich, went down there, parked in the middle of the angle parking, finished my sandwich, and when I backed up, I could not see oncoming traffic. So you're trusting traffic to stop, which is a very unnerving feeling, in my opinion. So all of you should be providing input now to City Council, make sure that they hear your views, respond to the survey that's being done, experience the angle parking for yourself, and again, provide that input so that when the permanent changes are made, it actually restores some of the ambiance and magic that we had with Sunset. Thank you.
Thank you. A question for Ms. Petzo. This will be our concluding question today. The rezoning of Firdale Village was approved in 2009 but never implemented. What would you do to encourage movement on projects like that in Edmonds?
Thank you. The rezone at Firdale is not necessarily something that I'm in a hurry to see implemented. I would probably prefer to see it reviewed. One of the elements that concerns me with that is the limited business parking, limited commercial parking, kind of a transit-oriented development type perspective there. And of course, the problem is that unlike particular places on Highway 99, especially near, say, the Swift stations, Firdale Village really is not all that well served with transit. And so I'm not at all keen on the one-size-fits-all mode of development or growth. I think the city should plan and recognize differences in different areas. We can sit there and say, wow, around the Swift station would be a great place for higher density residential. But maybe somewhere else, maybe we do need to allow parking or nobody will be able to get there. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Tibbet, please.
Yes.
Firdale Village.
Mm-hmm. Well, my understanding is that the master plan for Firdale Village represented something of an overly ambitious commitment to certain standards and designs that in some cases became perhaps prohibitive for developers to consider a project in that area. And so part of what I think we need to do and do very well is we need to provide direction in those areas that we want to develop and provide some very specific items that we want to see in those locations, and then let experts who understand mixed-use development, for example, or understand how transit relates to a neighborhood business zone, and let them have some freedom as to how it's developed there within the guidelines that preserve the quality of life, preserve the quaintness that we love about Edmonds. So I think that we do have some opportunities there, but it's going to have to do with better planning. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Now it's time for you all to consider what you'd like to say. For a closing statement, please. You have 1 minute, and we're going to go right back to the beginning with Mr. Nelson, please, for your closing statement for 1 minute.
I'd like to thank the Chamber for putting this forum together and the opportunity to talk to all of you here and at home. I'm going to go back here. 89 years ago, historian William Whitfield commended Edmonds residents for their spirit of independence, local pride, and devotion to their city. Today, that spirit is as strong as ever. I am proud to call Edmonds my home. I am proud to raise my children here, and I am proud to be your council member. If elected, I will continue to work to make our city strong, safe, and healthy. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rutledge.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for putting on this great event tonight. And also I see the Edmonds News out here, which is great to have more coverage of what you're doing here. And I need all the support I can get. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Teitzel.
Thank you. Well, I've been attending council meetings for the better part of a year, nearly every council meeting, and I've seen what I believe is a lack of inclusion, both geographically and demographically. I don't see people from the far reaches of Edmonds coming down here to speak at council meetings at the podium, nor do I see our various population subsegments like our Latino population, our Asian population. We have a lot of folks that are living here now from small African countries like Gambia, Eritrea, Ethiopia. I've talked to these folks. I've been out doorbelling. I've been over 4,500 doors now so far. And we need to get out there and talk to those folks that way, hear what they're thinking about, what are their concerns about Edmonds, because I don't believe we can manage the city well unless we do hear from all of our population subsegments. So that's what I'm all about. I plan to continue that effort and represent you well, and that's my campaign theme, be included, and I'd appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Crank.
Well, thank you, everyone, for coming, and for those who are watching online. I appreciate the time that you've taken out to listen to all of us. I hope you learned a lot more about each other, especially me, because I'm awesome. My campaign thing has been let's work together, and I sincerely believe in that concept, because working together means collaboration. Anyone that's met with me so far or has gone to my website knows that I'm all about let's get together and talk about things. Every Saturday morning from 10 a.m. to 11:30, I'm camped out at Cafe Ladro as a campaign chat time, and I invite any of you that are free during that time to come and talk to me and ask me questions and share your ideas with me about what you would like to see happen in the city. My top priority, again, is about open government and transparency, and that also includes making sure that we are getting around to those neighborhoods that we don't see come to the council meetings. We should be having neighborhood meetings in Firdale Village, in Five Corners, in Perrinville, bringing council to those communities and then back here to be able to have larger discussions. That's how city government should run. Thank you.
Now, Mr. Tibbet, your concluding thought.
Yes. When I first decided to run for city council, I called up some of my friends who were instrumental in encouraging me to do so, and they gave me a surprising response. I didn't expect it at all. They said, "Congratulations." I was expecting something more like, "Are you sure?" or "Are you really, really sure?" But they said instead, "Congratulations." And that was puzzling to me until I started forming the team that has helped me to run this campaign. I've called together neighbors, friends I've worked with over the years here in the city, and they've been very, very encouraging. We've done some things together that I could have never expected. I have visited over 4,000 homes, or close to 4,000 homes here, and people have helped me put up signs. They've helped put on gatherings in the city, and we are really getting things done together. It's a tremendous privilege to run for public office. And I think that's one of the reasons my friends were congratulating me. I'm experiencing something that very few people get to experience, and I would appreciate your vote in November. Again, my name is Neil Tibbet, and I look forward to serving you on this city council.
Thank you. And now, Ms. Petzo.
Well, I too will start out by thanking the Chamber for putting on this forum, and I also want to thank those of you who came out tonight. I know that you can sit at home and watch this, and I'm really pleased you're here so we have somebody to respond to and look at, and we don't have a feeling that we're just performing this act in a studio. So I appreciate you all coming out. Please contact me if you have any questions, and I'd be happy to talk both after this forum, by phone, by email is the easiest way to reach me. I will do everything I can to make sure that your vote is the informed vote that you want it to be. And finally, I just want to say it's been an honor to serve. It is fun to serve. It is tough, but it is fun. And I would appreciate your vote. Thanks.
Thank you all. And on behalf of the Edmonds Chamber of Commerce and its Economic Development Committee, I'd like to express appreciation to all of you, candidates and other participants in the audience, for being here in this 2015 Edmonds Candidates Forum. Those watching the forum on television, please note that it will not be rebroadcast on TV. This has been live, and that's the only television casting that we have. However, those interested should be able to view it by podcast from the Chamber's website, www.edmondswa.com. So for now, please join me in offering best wishes to all candidates in the election and happy voting to the constituents. Thank you and good night.
You've done almost the same. Thanks. Good job to you too. Well done. One more to go, right?
Yes.